Yesterday, the Associated Press reported that former Delaware Senate candidate Christine O'Donnell is being investigated for illegally using funds from her failed campaign to pay for personal expenses. This morning, Christine O'Donnell is denying the charges, and she joins us from Philadelphia to set the record straight. Christine, nice to see you this morning.
Hey, Christine.
Thank you for having me. Hi, Allison.
So let's clear up some information this morning. Have they filed a formal investigation against you, or are you still learning about rumors about this?
You know, I find it awfully suspicious that the Associated Press was tipped off before I or my lawyer or my campaign has received any notice from any legitimate organization pursuing this. It appears that this is the same crew complaint, trumped-up charges by the left-wing, George Soros-funded crew organization. The charges are led by Melanie Sloan, who's a former Biden staffer, where they're using a so-called credible witness who is a disgruntled volunteer as their star witness, who's become so obsessed with this whole thing that he's resorted to posting pornographic comments about me on Facebook. So, you know, it appears that this is just the same thug tactics that they've been using for months to discredit this anti-establishment movement that's gaining more and more strength and putting
the evidence to suggest, you mentioned,
Christine,
you mentioned the Vice President. You mentioned Vice President Biden, obviously one of the largest political forces in Delaware, as possibly behind this. Do you have any evidence to suggest that the Vice President made a phone call, perhaps, and got this FBI investigation started?
No, not necessarily the Vice President, but for sure, look at who's behind the two complaints that have been filed with the FEC. You've got the Delaware GOP, who filed a ridiculous complaint with the FEC for coordinating with the Tea Party, you know, and we embarrassed them. We took out their so-called anointed untouchable candidate, Mike Castle, in the primary. And then you've got Melanie Sloan and crew, a George Soros-funded former Biden staffer.
Christine,
now, we received several tips. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. These go back to 2006, these accusations. Let's just set the record straight.
Yeah.
Have you ever used campaign money for personal use?
No, there's never been any misappropriation of or misuse of campaign funds. And if anything does materialize from these rumors, we will continue to fully cooperate with any investigation, as we have with the FEC complaints, because we've taken every step, every measure to make sure that we are in full compliance with all of the very complicated rules and regulations, and we've got the best attorney and best compliance firm working with us. So, you know, I'm not afraid of any investigation, politically motivated or not.
And when you say crew, just so the viewers know, it's the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. They say that they are a nonpartisan watchdog group, and that these two former campaign aides of yours reached out to them because they saw this abuse. What they say is that you used part of your really vast war chest. You did bring in $7.3 million, which of course was groundbreaking there in Delaware.
Right.
They said they used it to pay your rent. Did you did you say that, that your house was used in part as a campaign headquarters, so therefore it justified being used as rent?
No, let me set the record straight on this. First of all, these two disgruntled, one was a volunteer, the other was someone that we hired for a week and a half, who we had to fire. She was fired from the Delaware GOP before she joined our campaign. We brought her on and quickly saw that she was indeed incompetent. Now, these two people that they're using as their key witnesses were from 2008. The crew complaint states misuse in 2009. So how did they, you know, did they look in a crystal ball and eyewitness these things through their crystal ball? So they did not have access to the campaign in 2009. And I also want to point out that two disgruntled people from 2008 are making these false accusations. In the meantime, numerous people who truly were involved in the 2008 campaign have stepped up to help set the record straight and say, look, I've been involved with the campaign for months, and we didn't see any misuse of funds. We raised only $100,000 in 2008. Now, regarding the whole thing that's been taken out of context about the rent, the current campaign rents a townhouse to use as our campaign headquarters. Because my personal home was vandalized, broken into, eggs thrown at it, nasty words written on the front door, I used that townhome as my legal residency, and I paid the campaign rent in order to use it as my legal residency. That's where the whole rent thing has been taken out of context. But it's I who pays the campaign, not the other way around. So this has been totally taken out of context in an attempt to discredit this whole Tea Party movement that's put the corrupt system on notice.
All right, Christine O'Donnell, thank you for joining us this morning and trying to get your side of the story out there. We appreciate it. And please keep us up to date if you actually do hear of a formal investigation. Come back on Fox and Friends.
I sure will.